Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unpacking Bias at Work. This is a special podcast series brought to you by AIOU as part of our annual STEAM Ahead campaign. Every year for International Women's Day, we conduct a campaign where we highlight the achievements of women in science, engineering, technology, arts, and mathematics. At the same time, highlighting some of the challenges and opportunities in these fields. We also highlight their role in shaping the UN Sustainable Development Goals and also the future of work and technology. I'm your host, Sindhu, Associate Psychologist at AIOU. In Unpacking Bias at Work, we speak with people who use, build, and make decisions with AI in their day to day work. A special shout out to the internal experiment we conducted with LLMs, wherein we examined if it describes men and women differently when identical performance data was given. The patterns that we observed during this experiment led to questions, which is what sparked this series. We also wrote a white paper on gender bias in AI, which I would strongly encourage you to check out on our LinkedIn page. We now, over the past few episodes, we've explored real world perspectives on working with AI and whether they've experienced gender bias in the systems that they use. We've also spoken with technical experts who use and study AI to better understand the reason behind how and why AI works the way it does, and what can be done to prevent AI from reinforcing the biases present in its training data. We now turn to legal and ethical aspects of deploying AI in the workplace. To help us unpack these important questions, I am delighted to be joined by our speakers for today. We have Ms. Ruchira Banerjee, a seasoned lawyer and POSH consultant, advisor, and trainer.
I mean, when we are handling a complaint of workplace sexual harassment, even then, we have to take into consideration that we have to give both the parties equal chance to speak, right? Documentation. What is our reasoning? What evidence do we have? Or if we don't have evidence, how do we come to this conclusion? Same way, it's all principles of natural justice, right? I think Namrata, you said fairness, transparency, and also accountability, right?
Correct.
And side by side, we have to also keep in mind the laws that are there. We may not have a very specific law which talks about protection, against an incident that happens within the ambit of AI. But all these, Constitution of India, right to life, right to equality, right for a safe and secure workplace, all of these just boils down to this, that yes, if I, being an employer, I'm implementing a particular AI system and I am relying on it heavily for whatever outcome it is giving me, and I am then taking a decision, right? What is my reason to take a decision? It can be anything. When I'm recruiting somebody or when I'm asking to somebody to leave, even when I'm checking for those promotions, right? Promotions, yeah. So, what are the grounds that I'm looking for, right? And why am I relying on this particular outcome for my decision?
Correct.
Because end of the day, I am liable, right? So I think it's very important, even for the person who's getting affected by this particular outcome. I think that person also should have a right to ask, which also again comes down to document that, what was your reason to take this decision? Then it becomes clear for both the parties here, for employer and for the employee, the impacted employee. I think, yes, that's the whole being the righteousness, the principles of natural justice, giving equal opportunity, keeping biasness aside. And it's like a continuous effort that, okay, I am using a particular tool to support a particular, I want to get some work done, and certain work may be labor intensive. We may not have enough people to look into it. I am using an AI system to get that work done, but I will still look into it and check that, yes, okay, let me see if I can consider this outcome or what more I can act upon. So, definitely that. And when we enter into a contract with the vendor, I think even before deploying any system, and not just AI, I think it is any, say, HR system or anything, we keep testing, right? We keep checking what is it that we require,
Mm.
what is it we are expecting out of this particular platform or product. It can be a content product also.
Mm.
But when I am offering that particular content to my team at my organization, I do a check, right? Okay, this is the content. I will check. If this is okay, then I will ask my team to go through this. So I don't think it's very difficult that way, especially when we are implementing an AI tool. These, pre-deploying steps, after deploying, I think Namrata also mentioned where she said that continuous this audits,
Audits, yeah.
we have to keep checking it, right? I think, yeah, pretty much that. Being a lawyer myself, I think it's very important to keep that unconscious bias aside.
Correct.
you know, we all have biases. We have to understand we all have biases, right? But to keep that unconscious bias absolutely unconscious, right? That you will not come my way of decision making. That's one. And transparency, accountability, all of these things come where we are compliant to the law. You
Mm.
have to understand that even though we don't have a specific law in place, but we do have right to life, right to work with dignity. I think that's very important. Okay? So in compliance with the law, yes, all these things, accountability, transparency, all of these things has to be really taken care of. Yeah, that's my thought on this.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Unpacking Bias at Work. This is a special podcast series brought to you by AIOU as part of our Steam Ahead campaign. Hello, Ruchira. Welcome back. Thank you so much for having us again. How has your day been so far?
It has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Okay. Right. Thank you so much for making your time for this follow-up conversation. We had a really insightful conversation a little earlier, wherein we discussed the legal frameworks and the practical steps that organizations can take when gender bias arises from AI systems at work. So based on that, we just had a few follow-up questions that we felt that our listeners would really benefit from your perspective on. So I do recollect that we were talking about some of the natural principles of fairness, transparency, and accountability that apply when you're dealing with such cases. So we're just curious from a purely legal perspective, right? Do you see any gaps in the current legal system? Of course, this is something that is still evolving in India, but I'm just curious to know, maybe 5 years down the line, would you expect any law to come across? If so, what are your recommendations on?
Yes, absolutely. I think with right now AI replacing human jobs, right? I think it's not even a week that we got this news of mass layoff, AI replacing. While, of course, that's the company's decision, and I'm sure they have thought through about it. But if you look at a very general overview, I think it's very important to have a dedicated law, which will not only regulate on the usage of AI, what happens after you use it, and mainly when we are talking about being unbiased at work, I think it's very important that there are certain guidelines and laws laid down with respect to AI that, okay, this is the boundary that you draw, right? Or with, this is the limitation, or these are the powers that are given to a particular AI tool when it is determining somebody's appraisal, somebody's job opportunity, or even a grievance for that matter. So these things are important. So yeah, to sum it up, I think it's important to have a dedicated AI law. Right now, if you think of, we do have certain laws in place. We have the labor code, which talks about the employer's responsibility to determine somebody's employment, the terms and conditions across industries. We also have the Digital Personal Data Protection Act. It's fairly a new law that has come in, but also it talks about that how you use a personal data, to what extent can it be used. So same way, if an organization is using an AI tool And if that AI tool is asking me to give my personal details, to what extent will that be used? Will it be misused or not? So I think we always think about the misuse part, right? So I think that needs to be protected. And apart from that, I think we also have certain clauses on cybersecurity uh, under the Information Technology Act. That's there, but a dedicated law would be, a piece of legislation only on AI would be, I think, good to have. It would be recommended.
Right. So all the good parts from the existing laws, plus something that deals with the
Absolutely.
specific use case of AI.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, absolutely. And that's how a law evolves, right? I mean, see, you can have a particular law in place, but then the challenges, the issues, the good parts, the bad parts around it, they keep evolving day by day. And it's a even also for an organization, it's also a personal experience for the person who's facing the repercussions of using a AI tool. So frankly, I have nothing against AI. It's just that I feel it should just be a tool to help me make a decision. It should not be a decision-making factor. Yeah, that's the important part.
Right. So this just brings to mind the famous quote, right? With great power comes great
Great
responsibility.
responsibility. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Got it, got it. Right. So if I can just jump on to one point that we were talking about previously, which just lives rent free in my mind, which is the fact that organizations, carry a lot of responsibility, like the major responsibility when they're deploying AI in the workforce. One example that you shared was the standard practice in such arrangements, such as, like, for example, a transcription service. At the
Mhm.
end, the final person who is responsible for it would be the person or the organization using it, right?
Absolutely.
So keeping this in mind, for example, if I am an employee or a job candidate who feels like maybe this decision is not really fair,
Hmm.
what systems or what processes would you recommend that an organization put in place so that they can, address this unfairness that they feel happened in the process?
Hmm. See, even I think in my last conversation with you, I think I had mentioned that AI tool should be only used to help me make a decision. Ultimately, it's me, my brain, my intellect, my righteousness that should make the ultimate decision, right? So, just in case if I am, as an organization, I'm using a particular tool which is going to help me determine a particular decision, in that case, it may, um, again, see, AI might unintentionally create some form of discrimination. And it can be based on anything. It can be based on gender, caste, community, religion, anything, right? So there are no really boundaries on the categories of discrimination, grounds of discrimination. So if at all such a discrimination is happening, I think first and foremost, what is important is transparency. So, if I, as an candidate, getting rejected for a particular position in an organization, and I know that somebody who is at equal stance with me, right? Somebody who's equally qualified, experience, let's say intellect is also equal. That person gets that job. Okay, I'm not getting into the gender part, whether it was a man or a person of third gender, nothing of that. All right. Let's just stick to humans here. Okay. So, what was the decision making process? What was the basis of taking that decision that I was rejected? I think that transparency is something that is probably my right to know. So, one is transparency, right? A AI tool generating a particular result and the employed executing and relying on that result, leaving a big impact for me. That is unfair. Right? So if that is unfair, how do we make it right? You give me a proper reason as to what was your deciding factor that I was rejected. That's one. This is just one example. I'm sure there are many other very big decisions taken by an AI tool. This is just one small example. That's one. And if I feel aggrieved of a particular decision that has been taken, I think I should also have the right to file a complaint or rather, my grievance should be redressed. Okay. So these are the two main things that I can think of. And keeping in mind the principles of natural justice, that, the right to be heard, to hear me out, what I have to say. So give me that scope, right? While I also want to understand what was your deciding factor, I also want to state my side of the story. So hear me out. I think that's more important to keep in mind. I think, yeah, these are the three things that I would think about if you know I'm getting impacted by a particular decision made by the AI tool. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, or maybe
Sure,
you.
sure. Yes, yes. I just have one follow-up question though.
Yes,
So
yes.
this is partly coming from our experience on conducting
Right,
the gender bias research, wherein we were just seeing two outputs side by side,
right,
a
right.
male and a female. And since I have the knowledge that we've used the same prompt, same data, I'm able to see, okay, maybe this is why, the AI has given it differently. So I'm just thinking from, if I'm a candidate who's just applying to a new
Mhm.
company, perhaps, and if I do not have the knowledge that they've used AI, so keeping that in mind, would you recommend, even though there is no legal obligation for an organization to do so, would you recommend that they proactively disclose if they're using any AI tool either for their recruitment or performance evaluation?
I think when we talk about principles of natural justice, I think it becomes quite natural that that person has to tell me on what grounds whatever decision was taken against me, right? I see when a decision is in my favor, I will say, Acha, the AI did a wonderful job, right? So aren't we conditioned like that, right? So anything that doesn't go our way, something that we don't like much, I think that's when we start questioning. And I think that's why it becomes more important even for an employer. I think I have mentioned this earlier. I mean, I'm just repeating myself that when an employer is taking help of such a platform or tool, I think it's very important to also assess the risk that they might face, right? So if they assess that risk, I think to a certain extent they are, leveling down the risk that they might face, right? When they do that assessment. And also another thing about, audits. I think it's very important that a third party audit is carried out, right? So that we kind of mitigate all these risks. And when we are interacting with a vendor, this is a particular vendor providing this platform or tool, correct? So when we are interacting with that vendor, I think it's very important the accountability on the employer also lies to check that how do we want this particular tool to behave, or what is the result we are expecting out of it, correct? So if we are quite focused on what we are looking for, I think then the transparency part also kind of comes into playing it, right? So yeah, again, transparency is something that is very much important, that requires. And if and when we have a dedicated law on AI, I think this would be the first thing that transparency, grievance redressal. That okay, fine, one decision was taken, that's okay, but you just show me what was the basis of this decision. So yeah.
Got it. So you've spoken about, transparency, having a grievance mechanism in place,
Hmm.
conducting regular audits.
Hmm.
So one thing about transparency, especially when it comes to AI, is that it's essentially a black box system, right? You give in an output, it throw input, you throws out an output. So you're not really 100% sure how that decision was made. So if an organization say, we don't know how it works,
Mhm.
would that be a legal defense in the current context that we have?
I don't think so. I mean, see, I think first of all, AI would be pulling out results which it has with it globally. It's not something that is specific to Bangalore, or it's not specific to India, correct? So I think whatever information it has with it globally, I think its decision is going to be on those lines. That's one. Now, second, when we're talking about the employee saying that okay, the employee saying that I don't know how this was functioning. How come you don't know? You're deploying something in your organization. You should be aware of what can go wrong, right? Or what can go right. Yeah. So these are I think the accountability still lies with the employee. Still. If we look at the labor laws, if we look even at the DPDP Act, right, Digital Personal Data Act, or when we are talking about information technology, all of these things puts emphasis that the employer is accountable. So if we take these, we join the dots, end of the day, the employer is responsible for whatever is happening to an employee in whatever employment category they fall into, whether it's contractual, consultant, full time, doesn't matter. Because in the course of work, that person is coming to your office and executing certain official work. Then in that case, the responsibility lies on the employer solely to take a decision that, okay, if I use this particular tool or platform, how is going to, what impact it's going to create. And again, it should be in their mind, and this is frankly my personal opinion. It must be just a tool, right? Where it helps you to make a decision, but the ultimate decision should come from you, right? It should not
Okay.
replace the human brain. I mean, I think I'm sounding very strict here and all against. Yes,
No,
Vishal.
Yes, Vishal.
yeah, no, I would agree with you, Ruchira, that no, I am also on that point that it should be used only as a tool and not an independent decision system yet. Uh,
Yes.
and it's interesting when you say that I should have the decision making capability. What's concerning for me is that still the use of AI can influence me. Like,
Yes.
because a lot of mostly the AI that we have right now is text based, language based, and when it gives language based outputs, we have already seen in our work also that use of certain words can influence. Like, if there's a higher use of leadership words,
Hmm.
it can influence me personally that okay, this person is better than the other person. I'm wondering, how limited can it be? How it can influence my decision making capability and also make me legally viable because ultimately it will come upon me, right? uh, yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts around that, I think. And just one last thing, we have been talking, all the world is talking about how the role of humans is decreasing because of AI coming in, but because of this factor only that you said AI should be used as a tool, it cannot make decision. Isn't the importance of humans critical thinking skill
Yes.
increasing?
Yes.
Right?
I think, yeah, I mean, for these AI tools or whatever platform that we are using, it should be only to assist you, right? Now, that assistance may have an impact on how I think and what I think, like you said, right? But also, interestingly, I mean, I don't use much of these platforms, but there are certain commonly used platforms where we can just modify a text or shorter a text and all of those things. But I like how that particular platform tells very clearly that please verify with the right sources because we can be wrong, right? So it's how easily, they don't hold themselves accountable. We are giving you all, you want me to summarize it, or you want me to elaborate it, you want me to modify it. They're giving all that options, but they are still giving one line that, we can be wrong. So, you must check it. So I think, and AI is also dependent on a human. That whatever decision you may take, please take it on your own, right? Use your brains to take that decision, right? Yes. So from the accountability perspective, because there are certain laws that hold the employer accountable. So again, when an employer is deploying such a platform, such a tool, I think then the responsibility again lies on the employer, right? So first of all, you keep checking that what is the expectation that you have from this particular tool. All right. How you want to this particular tool to function and assist you. What is the decision that this particular tool will help you in assisting with, right? That's second. Um, Third is, see, we really don't have a specific law on that, right? But when we look at the labor code, when it when we look at the Constitution of India, right, it talks about right to work with dignity, and all these things fall under this particular, uh, provision given by the Constitution of India, right? So if I'm not able to function, if I'm not able to work with dignity, it doesn't matter whether it's AI tool or whether I have a very, nagging lead manager. It doesn't matter, right?
Mm.
So yeah,
No, I completely agree to that. And you come with a lot of expertise in POSH area. I think you dedicatedly in the POSH area. And I understand that it's a sensitive area also, and language plays a crucial role.
very.
Right? And when we, and I'm just curious about this point, and I'm trying to understand from you in the segment of POSH AI, as you said, that it can give text, it can summarize it, generate it, modify it, but then at the end of the day says, check it.
Yes.
Yes,
We
I
don't take responsibility. Yes.
yes, and uh, can there can you do you see there are risks associated with that phenomena when AI generated language is used in the segment of POSH? And because I think the kind of words and language, the framing is being used, and AI brings in its own bias, historical bias, and puts it through the language, which
Hmm.
looks amazing on the surface, very structured, but could there be risks also in that sense?
I think more than influencing our thinking process, one of the most important, rather, one of the major risks that we probably run is breaching of confidentiality. Because cases of sexual harassment at workplace, those are very sensitive cases, right? Where names come up, name of organizations come up, names of witness come up, a lot of things come up, right? Even directly or indirectly. So if I am to use a tool to even to transcribe or for whatever reasons, I do run the risk of breaching that confidentiality, right? I have been practicing in this particular field of law for the last 10 years now, and still I maintain confidentiality even with my family members, where my immediate family members also don't get to know that for which company I'm handling this case for. Because for me, I mean, I am maintaining confidentiality, but the moment, say, for example, I share it with my sister or I share it with my husband, they might find it very interesting that, you know what, this had happened. And they can probably make it a water cooler conversation with their friends and colleagues. And you see that how the word is getting spread. Now, same way, if I'm using a particular tool to help me say, okay, summarize this meeting for me, I can very well put up that audio recording or a video recording. What is happening to that data? The names are going out. Where is it getting stored? I think that's the reason also we have Digital Personal Data Protection Act,
Right.
right? So we always run that risk of, I think for POSH specifically, we always run this risk of breaching confidentiality, which I think is very important to maintain. Confidentiality has to be maintained at all costs because the nature of the complaints that we receive, the nature of evidence that we receive, the conversations that come up, these are very sensitive and should be within closed doors. It should not really go out into the world, really.
Totally agree, and it's very important what you highlighted about how the data is being stored, because uh,
Exactly.
it's an interconnected system for the whole organization. We don't know where the data is being stored, and if
Right.
another employee search for something, even if I just blankly rate what has been the POSH cases in my company, what comes up, I cannot be sure about that. It can breach confidentiality.
Correct. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I can still have interest to open certain law books and read through certain articles to understand. But for a layman, I mean, I would really say when it comes to AI or when it comes to AI or data protection, I'm a layman. So I really don't know what is happening with the even simple things. You check in into a hotel or you check in, you submit your baggage to one particular airline. Immediately they will send you a WhatsApp message. You will get a text. So your number is just all over. And
Hmm.
I think 10,000 people know where your luggage is and where are you flying to, which seat you have taken, and what food you have opted for. So I really don't know. But then it's easy for me. Acha, see, this message has come. My only thinking process is, acha, if my luggage goes missing, I can, file a complaint saying that, see, you had taken my baggage. A layman will think like that, right? We really don't know what is happening to those data.
Correct, correct. Thank you, Ruchira. That was insightful. Over to you, Sindhu. You are
I'm speaking on mute. Okay. Yes, yes, got it. So, Ruchila, so far we've been talking about AI as a support tool mainly, right? So, if I'm moving a little to the sci-fi aspect, and maybe 20 or even 10, 5 years down the lane with the rate that AI is evolving. So, there are these AI systems, right, which are these autonomous softwares that have an end goal in mind and they can, independently
Correct.
take their own decisions. So, in cases like that, do you see the question of responsibility evolving? Maybe to include vendors or maybe specifically for the AI system itself?
I don't think vendors will take responsibility. I'm not targeting any vendor here, but I don't think they will take responsibility. I think they will say that at the end, you are signing a contract with us, terms and conditions are late, and they will also have their own terms and conditions that only under these circumstances we are accountable, right? Maybe, you don't like the design, we will change the design. Or, we don't like the font that you have used, we will change the font. All those things are there. But ultimately, when that particular tool is functioning and it's leading to a place where you are taking decision on based on the results that tool is giving, I don't think the vendor will take any risk on it. The vendor will probably say that, you hold responsibility for buying this particular tool or subscribing to this tool. So now it is your responsibility. Okay? And they might have those, those one big or rather five big pages of terms and conditions, which is just writing. So the first two lines we read and we just say, okay, terms and conditions agreed, agreed. Right? So there lies all the terms and conditions where they, I think, clearly say the responsibility doesn't lie with us. Right? Again, which again comes back on the employer. That you use that tool, see what are you expecting out of it, how is it running, what are the risks that you may face. All of those things are there. But at a larger picture, again, these tools, these platforms, they must be there you to assist you. That's all. That should be their role. It should not replace human thinking. I mean, of course,
Got it.
definitely runs a risk of influencing human thinking, but ultimately, it's the decision making lies on us.
right. And I think in on that note, enhancing humans' skills, prop thinking,
Very
critical
important.
thinking would become more important also in coming time. Legally also and otherwise also.
Yes.
Yes.
I think legally, so like I said, I mean, legally, we don't have a specific law on AI, right?
Mm.
Protection under AI and all those things. But there are these other labor laws. There are the information technology law. Now, see, one example, the POSH Act, because I work on POSH Act, so this will keep coming up in my conversation. Even
Mm.
the POSH Act puts entire responsibility on the employer. That the employer is to ensure that the workplace is sexual harassment free,
Mm.
right? And they have put the means. You have a policy, you have internal, you must constitute an internal committee, you must train the internal committee. It all boils down to the employer, that you are responsible for implementation of the law. So until and unless we really have a specific law on AI which puts responsibility equally on the vendor or on the employer, till that time, I think it's the employer who is responsible for even using a tool and whatever that tool results the tool is giving.
it would be amazing if like we had mandatory AI literacy trainings like we do with POSH awareness
Yes.
trainings. Yeah. Hopefully, people who are
I'm sure
drafting
we'll get
law.
there. Yeah, I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
get there soon. I mean,
right.
DPDP also took a little bit of time, but it's here. I think with the changing times, like I say, I mean, law is evolving, situations are evolving, and the practical challenges are also evolving. So I think to address those, to control those, I think law will be executed at times. I mean, legislation.
Amazing. So before I let you go, Ruchira, there's this one concept that we came across while we were researching for, our work, which is the concept of algorithmic personhood.
Yes.
Right. So, which is this concept of treating AI systems, especially the self-learning algorithms, as a legal or an
Hmm.
ethical entity.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
I know this is still evolving, this is still a far off case, but I would love to know your perspective on whether, these would eventually enter our legal systems and we would have maybe some sort of law or act that recognizes them as specific entities.
So there's a saying, right? Never say never. So I am not going to say that, keep AI outside of this, not be accountable. Yes. I would rather say that, yes, if a law comes into place, and I'm sure it will in a few years' time, it will come. I think it might put some responsibility on the AI for sure. See, AI to give the legal status of a person, right? I mean, algorithmic personhood would lead to that only, right? Where you are a legal entity, where you are accountability, you're responsible for a certain thing to happen. Now, all said and done, I'm just thinking out loud that if I am to make a AI tool responsible or accountable for its functioning and the way it's functioning, how do I penalize that platform if something goes wrong, right? Yes, Vishal, you want to add something to it?
Yes. So I think Ruchira, one I had the same question also, and I read about it. And one thing they do to penalize AI is, and already that is happening, is they use the concept of reinforcement, where if they do
Okay.
the right thing, they get reinforced. If they don't do it, they get the negative reinforcement. And that is why AI is very goal oriented. That it doesn't want to get the negative reinforcement, so it will do anything to complete the goal. I think that could be one way for them to
Right.
penalize them.
Yeah. So, okay, I think, yeah. So, I think that answers my doubts because I was also thinking that how would you hold somebody responsible? As a human, you have a lot of things, right? From the criminal laws to the civil laws to everything that we have, like all the laws can be put into force to say that you are right, you were wrong, right? These things are there. But for an AI, um, I guess, yeah, reinforcement, right? Is that the word that you used? Reinforcement?
Yes, yes, reinforcement, and they have a couple of other reward mechanism also which they can manipulate. Uh, like one thing that happened in one of the researches was the AI doesn't want to be shut down. It has that programming. So if you give the threat of shutting it down, it can feel penalized or it can do some uh, other hideous things like to take control. That is also yes.
That's interesting. Yeah. Again, I'll still stick to it. AI should be there for assistance and not replacement.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much, Ruchira, for sharing your time and insights with us. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you as always. I'm sure our leaders, our listeners, as well as Vishal and I, were walking away with a much more clearer understanding of how AI, law, and ethics intersect at the workplace. So, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I mean, I'm really excited. This is something that I don't particularly work on, but yeah, because it's evolving and it's there, so it's quite interesting to, even read about it. Because I too had to read about it, right? And to see that how it's affecting others and how it can affect me, my job, and the role that I play, right? Because in POSH, there's a lot of human emotions involved, right? Lot of emotions involved. So you just can't, if somebody is crying, somebody is saying something, you just can't say, Acha, you what, wait. I will listen to you. You can't say those things. Right? You listen to that person, be human. I think that's very important to be human.
That's very important, I think. And AI
Yeah.
is nowhere, for me, AI is nowhere near it, I think.
I think people like us who work and deal with a lot of human emotions, I think
Mm,
we are really in favor of, we would like to rely on our brains more and experience and how we think, right? So,
yes. And I think
Absolutely.
empathy is something which require humans to be treated.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. All right. Great. Thank you
Amazing.
so much. Thank you for this opportunity. I actually loved speaking to both of you.